Hello guys, welcome back to Archive Horizon. In this video, I like to talk about VIDYA AGAVE DPS Comparison and Weapon Comparison. The weapon I'm gonna compare is AGAVE's signature weapon Snapshot Ace and AGAVE's free-to-play weapon Pure Verdure. I'm gonna start from the calculation result. If you want to see the calculation verification, it is at the end of this video. For this calculation, I use VIDYA AGAVE Manifestation 2 stat, and the weapon stat for this comparison is Tier 2 Snapshot Ace, Tier 1 Snapshot Ace, and Tier 5 Pure Verdure. While the Logistic talent has 14% attack percent talent and 11.8% electric elemental damage talent. First of all, I like to explain about the difference between both of these weapon skills. The first difference is the effect uptime. In this calculation is calculated by assuming that in case if you didn't use other operative support skill to upgrade the standard skill paces, then the signature weapon effect uptime will be the standard skill first pace already have 6% elemental damage increase, the second pace have 12%, while the third and fourth pace already get the full buff of the signature weapon skill. Meanwhile, the free-to-play weapon, the first pace doesn't get any skill damage increase, the second pace get 15% skill damage increase, and blah blah blah, which means only after the 5th use of her standard skill can we fully utilize the weapon skill buff. The second difference is, even though signature weapon can't provide a total skill damage increase as high as Pure Verdure, signature weapon skill can provide skill damage taken, which is the second best buff after final damage buff, while Pure Verdure can only provide skill damage buff. I guess that's it. So in this calculation, I already include the weapon skill and logistic skill uptime by assuming that you didn't use other operative support skill to upgrade the standard skill pace. The first thing we can notice is her shooting damage is very low, so make sure to avoid shooting as much as possible because you know, this new boss can also provide skill energy by only standing in her skill zone. By doing that, you can gain skill energy without shooting, so you can minimize the shooting frequency. The second things we can notice is her standard skill first and second pace damage is very low. So if your enemy doesn't have destructible part or their destructible part already got destroyed, always start with using other operative support skill in order to skip both of these paces. Here is her DPS. In order to calculate her DPS, I made this skill rotation. But you don't have to follow this skill rotation because this is only used to calculate her raw DPS. If you use her in a team, then you will not doing any of this skill rotation at all because you can start with using other operative support skill to skip both of the first and second paces. First of all, you might be questioning which one can produce more higher DPS between accumulating 60 personal flare and 100 personal flare. The answer is, if the enemy doesn't have destructible part, accumulating 60 personal flare can produce more higher DPS than 100 personal flare. Why? The problem is in shooting action frequency. When you accumulating 60 personal flare, you only need one time shooting action. Meanwhile, in order to accumulate 100 personal flare, you will need 2 or 3 times shooting action if the enemy doesn't have destructible part. However, it's a different story if the enemy has destructible part, because when her standard skill also hit destructible part, it can reduce the skill energy consumption, allowing her to spam more standard skill before running out of skill energy. So you can accumulate personal flare more faster while reducing the shooting frequency if the enemy has destructible part. But because we can't see how much damage dealt to destructible part, so yeah, forget it. We can't compare the DPS because of that. In summary, if the enemy doesn't have destructible part, accumulating 60 personal flare is better. While if the enemy have destructible part, make sure to accumulate as much as possible personal flare in order to nuke the enemy after the destructible part destroyed. Then, how about the slow and fast skill rotation in here? You probably already noticed that if you use her standard skill until the last drop of her skill energy, the last standard skill casting animation is slower, and the damage deal is also lower than when she still has sufficient skill energy to consume. That is what these 4.5 paces mean. The last use of her standard skill when she no longer has sufficient skill energy. In summary, this slow skill rotation is include using the standard skill until the last drop of her skill energy, while this fast skill rotation is keeping that last use of her standard skill and start blasting. The result is, when you are accumulating 60 personal flare, fast skill rotation can produce a slightly higher damage output than the slow skill rotation. However, for 100 personal flare, the result is almost the same, because the slow skill rotation only requires 2 shooting actions to accumulate 100 personal flare, while in fast skill rotation requires 3 shooting actions and 4 times additional use of her standard skill to accumulate 100 personal flare. That is what caused the 100 personal flare DPS between both of that almost have no significant difference. For the weapon comparison, Tier 2 Snapshot Ace can provide about 20% improvement more higher than Tier 1 Snapshot Ace, while Tier 1 Snapshot Ace can provide about 30% improvement more higher than Tier 5 Pure Verdure. For VIDYA AGAVE DPS compared to other main DPS, yep, lower than we thought, because her specialty is in her ability to destroy destructible part more faster, while charging the personal flare to nuke the enemy with her ultimate skill. So basically, VIDYA AGAVE is made for enemy with destructible part, for example Joseph Harden, Nightborn Phantom, and maybe this upcoming Angel is also protected by destructible armor. So the conclusion is, her signature weapon Tier 2 Snapshot Ace is about 20% more higher than Tier 1 Snapshot Ace. Tier 1 Snapshot Ace is 29% more higher than Tier 5 Pure Verdure. In my opinion, the gap is quite high, so it's more recommended to pull for her signature weapon in case you like her playstyle, because she might be useful for future boss that has destructible part. About whether you should pull her or not, skipping her and pull for Cherno might be a better option, considering that Cherno Ligma will also have a rerun in this version. However, if you already have Cherno Enigma, then maybe you can pull for AGAVE, considering that Nightborn Phantom is being made able to reset Cherno DOT build up, and Angel MF is coming. About her Logistic talent, Attack percent talent has the highest priority, while the second is Alignment Index. If you can't obtain both of that combination, just focus on obtaining Attack percent talent is enough. For the third talent is Electric Damage. For the calculation verification, here it is. This is my AGAVE stat, Tier 1 signature weapon, and the Logistic stat has 3 Attack percent talent and 1 Elemental Damage talent. And her manifestation is manifestation 1, so if the number differentiation between this calculation and the actual number is still within ±1%, the formula in this calculation is acceptable. So now I'm gonna input the actual number. Standard skill pace 1, almost the same as the calculation result. Standard skill pace 2 damage, still within ±1%. Standard skill pace 3 damage, still good. Standard skill pace 4 damage, also still within ±1%. For her shooting damage, her crit damage is 2518, on the low side but still within ±1%, while for the normal shooting damage is this, also still within ±1%, while for the ultimate skill damage, it's that much. Oops. The personal flare in here is 56, so also within plus minus 1%. So every number is still within plus minus 1%. I hope that is enough to verify this calculation. I think that's all for now. I will upload a new videos that explain about her skill and team compilation next, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching, see you next time, cheers.